Welcome to the AngelsWin.com podcast, featuring Jeff Stoddard and AngelsWin.com founder, Chuck Richter. And now, here's Jeff Stoddard.
Hello, Angels fans, baseball fans. Happy November. It is November 6th, the Wednesday, a day after a big day in the United States. But this is your palate cleanser. This is your mouthwash. We are going to get all of the ickiness, stickiness, good vibes, bad vibes of last night's election. Set those to the side. We're going to talk about baseball and give you something different to think and talk about. So, Chuck, happy Wednesday. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been a minute, right?
Yes.
When was the last time? I think the last one we did was with Adam Rank, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right before, the week before the NFL season. Gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
Holy smokes, man.
And I think that the Angels hadn't finished the season yet. So
yeah,
for those listening, the Angels finished, big milestone. They did not hit 100 losses. So woohoo, only 99. I
silver
guess
linings.
that's
Yeah.
something we can raise a banner for. But not a great year. Chuck and I and Victor have been kind of going back and forth over the weeks and gosh, I guess months at this point, talking about, hey, we need to record one of these, and schedules just hadn't aligned. But we are entering hot stove season, and things are getting hot early for the Angels. Some activity has been going on. Day after the World Series wrapped up, moves started to be made.
Yeah.
So, LFG, man, let's make this happen. But the reason we are recording this today is, and we'll just jump right into it. This isn't going to be a long podcast, but we had some news that we didn't want to sit on. So, Chuck, I'll turn it over to you. You've been had your ear to the ground, and you've got some information from some birdies. So, what are you hearing? What's going on?
So I was told by a trusted source, and everybody laughs at who's your source, whatever. But this is a guy I've known for a long time, and he actually knows a couple AL East execs that are well known, and talks with those two folks from two teams in I can't mention the teams, but that they work for. But they were told that Artie Moreno is going to spend significantly more than the media has led on to. So that's exciting to me because you just don't know. I mean, Artie didn't really do anything last offseason. There are some guys out there where he could definitely make a splash. First and foremost, I think that the Angels need a veteran guy to lead the rotation. And I would love for them to target Blake Snell. He would be the perfect veteran starter that can lead a rotation that would follow, or that have Jose Soriano, Reed Detmers, Jack Konowitz, who I really liked from what I saw with his power sinker. And I know just today they signed Kyle Hendricks. I think he could be a back end guy. Who knows? He could be a long reliever, or maybe just depth, right? Of course, you still have Tyler Anderson on the hook, but he could be a guy that could be moved as well.
Sure.
But I really think that if this really does come to fruition, from what we learned, that I think that's somebody that Artie should target, and I think that he should target Blake Snell over Corbin Burns. When I look at Corbin Burns, I know he's a local guy, and the fans really are clamoring for him and stuff, but he looks like a candidate for his arm to just fall off. I mean, he ran out of gas again this past season and towards the end, and I don't know. I just I don't trust his arm long term. I would rather a guy that, and let's face it, I mean, Corbin Burns is a good pitcher, but Blake Snell can be that dominant ace, right?
Sure.
and he's proven in the playoffs he can be that type of ace as well.
Well, let me ask you something and jump in real quick on that. If you're kind of positioning this as getting Snell instead, or prioritizing Snell, if Artie is looking to, empty the checkbook, is both an option?
Yeah, but then I think you'd be looking at, depending on the longevity of the contracts.
Mm-hmm.
I think Burns is looking for upwards of $200 million from what I've seen.
Yeah,
and Snell's gonna probably ask for the same. I think he wants a longer term contract, which wasn't afforded. He wasn't offered to him this past offseason. So, wouldn't that be great though? I mean, as much as I just shit on Corbin Burns, I'd take him as a number 2 behind Snell.
Well, and that's kind of my, like, when we were sharing this back and forth over text going, you're like, hey, I got some news. It looks like we're going to be, emptying the bank account a little bit this off season. It was like, okay, great. But what does that mean? Like, do you have a feel from your source just how deep or how heavy the Angels are going to go? Where's their focus going to be? Obviously pitching is something that needs to happen. But what else do you see on the horizon for the team? Any other?
Well, I think there, there's an argument that you can see them spend a little bit more on relief pitching. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love Joyce, and I really hope he stays healthy, but I don't think it's realistic. And just seeing his windup and the torque he puts on, and as hard as he throws, that you can count on him for a full season. He has all the makings of being a dominating closer. But what if you lose him? Who's next in line, right? I think Robert Stevenson, who we signed, who got injured after we signed him last offseason, he's a good candidate if he comes back healthy and the way he pitched the year before. So I think you could see that. I think that, right now the outfield is, you got Taylor Ward. There's talk about moving Trout maybe to left field. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can move, maybe you can move Taylor Ward to right field, and then you could go with Adele, give him a shot. I mean, he did show glimpses. I mean, his defense, let's face it, was vastly improved. And he's got the range to go get it in the outfield, so he could be a candidate.
Base running decision making.
That's another thing.
As strong as we'd like to see.
That's correct. But you can see they just traded Griffin Canning for Jorge Soler. He's a guy that has proven in the past to hit for some power. Although his power numbers were down this past season, but the Angels never really replaced Ohtani's power, right? I mean, but
I don't. I mean, they didn't even, obviously replacing Ohtani with one guy,
right?
Very tough to do. But even in the aggregate, I don't think that they made any substantial moves or activity to try to replace him over 2, 3, 4 guys even. So
I wonder, there could be an argument for them also going after an Anthony Santander, who, dude, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he hit nearly 50 home runs this year. This 40 something. But he's a guy that you could maybe platoon in the outfield DH with Jorge Soler. I know there's talk of having Mike Trout see more time at DH. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, his stats did not look good as a DH ever. He's kind of like playing, he needs to be on the field, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, you could look at maybe even a trade happening where, which and I was talking to this source who is got a great baseball mind, and he's well connected in the baseball industry. And he mentioned, Jonathan India with the Reds for second base. Good high on base percentage guy, some power, some speed, good defense. That would fill a spot at second base. One that Brendan Drury, he wasn't able to, have the season that he had the previous two campaigns. And so that's a hole, right? Because I think you got to look at Luis Rengifo as your starting third baseman, right? And we can talk about Anthony Rendon in a minute, but I don't think you go into the season penciling Anthony Rendon as your starting third baseman.
Well, no, I don't think that you can pencil a guy in that, has he played over 75 games at third base for the Angels since he's been with them?
Yeah, I'd have to look that up.
I don't know that he had. And if he has, it certainly hasn't been in the last, 3 years or so.
If he has, I think it was, oddly enough, the COVID shortened season.
Right. So it's kind of one of those, how do you pencil somebody in that has a track record of not giving you the service time you need at the position you're penciling him in at? Like, is there a different role for DH, right? Something else. And I know you just said we were going to talk about him later, and I just jumped right into it. But
no, that's fine.
Is he going to stick around? Is he even going to be with the team still? I mean, I think that's a question that has been bubbling a bit in the.
I've also I can't really speak to So since we're on Anthony Rendon, I can't really speak to the why he may be considering retirement, but a lot of folks believe that it's his legs are shot. With his hamstring injuries, his leg injuries that he's sustained over the past few seasons, it takes a toll. And I can tell you from experience, having torn both my hamstrings, one of them completely being ruptured, that you have scar tissue and you don't have the same speed and strength to do the things that you did when you were younger, when you had strong legs. Dude, I couldn't believe it. I was getting physical therapy on my hamstring that I ruptured. And the physical therapist probably doesn't even weigh 100 pounds, right? And dude, she was like pressing on my leg when I was on my back, and she wanted me to push off to try to push her. And I could. She said, "I'm pushing," and like nothing. She was barely even moving. And then she goes, "Okay, well, let me try the other leg," and I just about threw her off the table. So, I mean, there's something to be said, dude, for that losing that leg. And once you lose that leg strength in baseball or in any sport,
you're cooked. I don't think a lot of people necessarily understand how much your legs and feet, play into your overall health as an athlete. Because if you've got injuries in your lower body half, and you're compensating for them up top somehow, you run into back injuries and hip injuries and arm injuries and all kinds of stuff. It has, a cascading effect on your body.
Yeah, and he was visibly, when he came into camp this past spring training, I talked to a few writers for the Angels, and who were in the clubhouse when he walked in, and they said he was visibly much smaller, his arms, his legs, everything, and he never really gained that strength back or that muscle weight back, as the season progressed. So I don't know. Like I said, I think you got to pencil Rengifo at third base. He showed he can do a good job defensively, and heck, offensively, he was great for us. So.
Yeah. Well, let's see. In addition to Soler, they picked up Contreras, right-handed pitcher, off of waivers from the Rangers. Any interest or excitement from you there? Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I figured.
I mentioned Kyle Hendricks. I mean, he's just a filler, back-end guy or a depth move, I think. I mean, I don't think you're penciling a guy like him just right into the rotation.
Yeah.
I don't.
They've picked up Ryan Noda off waivers from the A's.
I do kind of like that as a move.
Okay.
As they didn't really have any depth at first base. I mean, that Nico Cavetis guy that we got in the Red Sox trade, he's been killing it in the Arizona Fall League. Just killing. I mean, with powers, unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can take those guys, right? They even picked up Scott Kingery, who had a 25 type, 25 home runs, 25 stolen bases in AAA. He was a top prospect of the Phillies years ago. He's 30 years old, but it's a good depth move. It's a good bench type move.
Sure.
To have a guy like that you can move around the field and he can steal a base, club a home run. But I still think there's going to be moves made, whether it's a trade and taking on more salary, to my earlier point of what we learned about what Artie potentially is going to do this offseason and spending more money, and signing high-priced free agents, right? I don't think my gut feeling isn't that Artie's going to spend for Juan Soto. I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
He's going to command a lot of money. Is he worth it? Absolutely. He's that type of player. But
So you've talked about Snell. You've now thrown out Soto. If we're backing up the Brinks truck on this, who are the free agents that you see as being potential or realistic targets for Perry to go after? And do you also think that Perry is going to have, kind of the training wheels taken off, and that Artie's just going to give him the reins to go? Like, here's the checkbook, go make it happen.
With limitations, yeah. But I think that's what should be done. And I really think that he should give Perry a number, if he hasn't already, and says, it's your team. I'm going to back away. One of my biggest criticisms of Artie is that he mingles too much in the what the general managers do in terms of adding talent, right?
Right.
And so, I think Perry's done a pretty damn good job, and I think he should just let him do his job, Artie. Let Perry do his job. And so, we mentioned Snell, we mentioned Burns, Santander is a guy. Walker Buehler's another guy that they could get maybe as the number 2. Jack Flaherty, another pitcher, both from the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
So those are some guys to look at. Sean Manaea of the Mets had a great season. Lefty starter. You could look at guys like that. You could argue either way for going into the season with an Adele center, Adele being penciled in as the starter, right?
Sure.
Or you may look at, say, hey, we know what he can do and we know what he can't do. And maybe he's just a 4th outfielder, or maybe they trade him, right? Yeah. And they package him and they get somebody like a Jonathan India, right? It wouldn't be a straight up swap. We'd have to add more, but maybe that's something they look into, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys out there. I think that, but again, it could be a little of both, right? Maybe you take on a salary via a trade and you're making a couple moves via free agency.
Sure. Sure.
But hey, one of the things is there's a lot. You and I, we kind of stepped away from the Angels. Really had a tough time in the month of September, and you and I would text each other and dude,
April and May and June and July.
in our excitement level just was an all-time low, and I can speak for both of us. Yeah. But there are some positives when you look at the type of season that Zach Neto had, right? Mm-hmm. And all the pitchers I mentioned, Koch and Soriano, Joyce, and Shanuel was, but maybe he can build off that and have a better season. Right. So you got Christian Moore, who actually I've heard they're working out in the outfield now, so maybe he's not that second baseman of the future. Maybe he's the outfielder of the future, in the near future even.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, there's some things to be excited about, but
Sure.
really, and you know this, Jeff. I mean, as a fan in the off season, when the owner invests into the team and you put together a solid roster of talent, it brings excitement into the fan base, right?
Sure.
And that's what this fan base is just. We could use a jolt, dude. We could use a hell of an off season.
Southern California, Orange County baseball fans are just jonesing for this team to be successful. And there's frustration and there's anger, and which is good because that shows that there's still passion.
Right.
What I would want to say to camera, to Artie, to anybody in the Angels organization, don't let that anger and frustration slip into a place where people just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Which, as Chuck alluded to a couple minutes ago, is kind of where he and I started landing about late September, early October. It's like, do you want to do a podcast? It was like, how many more times and how many more ways can we say that we're frustrated with this team and we're angry and this guy's doing this and not doing that, and it's the same message over and over and over.
Yeah.
Having something to be able to be excited and talk about is cool. So when Chuck got this news from his source that, hey, this might be a consequential hot stove season for the Angels, it's like, all right, let's go. Let's get excited about this. Let's see what's out there. What do we think we can get? What moves do we think we can make? And let's start planning for spring in Tempe.
Yeah.
So, Chuck, I don't know. Do you want to announce that we kind of have dates penciled in for Spring Training Fan Fest coming up next year?
Yes, we do. So I'll be arriving on the 6th of March, and we'll be there the 6th through the 9th, where it's I think it's the 8th is a Saturday, is where we're going to have our little shindig. We're probably going to go back again to the brewery we went to last year. It was amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but those details are being worked out. But yeah, it'll be that weekend, and I'm pumped, dude. I mean, hell, even if the Angels just did minimal things right this off season, right? And the excitement level was just meh. To me, getting together with other Angels fans, and a lot of them are longtime friends like yourself, Katie, a lot of the folks from the website, folks that I've met last year for the first time, that we've been interacting on Twitter, X, for the past couple years. It's a great time, man. And to just sit in, at a ball game in spring with that 70, 80 degrees, that sun, and that first cold beer at a ball game with friends. There's nothing beats
green grass on the field, especially for lots of us. So as most of you know that watch the podcast, I'm in Colorado. So we got our first snow here in northern Colorado overnight. So there's snow on the ground. Everything is going to be brown and dead and gray for the next 6 months. Yeah. So for me, the highlight of going to Tempe in March, April was, oh my gosh, there's palm trees and there's green grass. And yet it's early enough that it's also not 120 degrees yet. So it's just a great time to go. If you've never been, we'd encourage you to go. We'll have lots more details coming up in the coming weeks and months. But pencil in those dates that Chuck shared, because we will. That's when we'll be headed down.
Yes, sirree. And it works out too, because the Angels are at home for 2 of those 3 days that we're there. And I actually do like going to see some of the other ballparks, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice to have one day or two of the days that you're there where they're actually somewhere else, so you can check out those ballparks. But I'm looking forward to it.
And boy, let's hope Tempe Diablo steps it up a notch this year. I guess last year was kind of
woo. You heard my rant, right, about how they got rid of all the draft gear?
I heard that from so many people directly and online that it was just, they were so disappointed because it used to be, going to Tempe Diablo used to be a time, man. I mean, they had all kinds of different beers and microbrews and cocktails and good food and barbecue and brisket, and
even the food was underwhelming.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah. I mean, how do you screw up a hot dog at a baseball park? I mean, come on.
I did get the scoop, though, from a couple of the workers there that this was only a temporary thing because they were going to start all the changes, the remodel, the things that they were going to do to improve the stadium. And so that's why they cut back. And so so hopefully we'll have a whole bunch of those perks we're used to and even more. So we'll see about that.
Boy, that's how you get a fan base fired up for the upcoming season. Cut back on stuff during spring training. That's not the marketing genius we were led to believe that he was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we want to cover before we wrap? As we've kind of mentioned, this is going to be a short one, some news that we wanted to share and get people excited for Hot Stove. What else? Anything?
Yeah, I think people have been asking, where's Victor? And, obviously people know that he's moved and he's taken a coaching and recruiting job, and he's very, very happy in doing that. But he did say that he's going to join us again. It won't be the regular cadence that we were used to having him on for the past couple of years. Has it been 2 years?
I think it has been. And for those that don't know, he's the assistant head baseball coach at Ottawa University in Arizona. I think they're in Surprise, if I'm not mistaken, but just outside of Phoenix. So he's excited. He's back in the game. He's getting to, coach up young men and get them ready for baseball season. So that's exciting. And while we're out there, I don't know what their schedule is. It would be cool to go check out one of his team's games if that lines up with that time. So we'll
for sure.
We'll
and because he is out there, he'll definitely join us, I'm sure.
I would hope so.
At a ball game or at least at our event, right?
Hey, Victor, if you're listening to this, we're already signing you up to attend the event. So hope that's cool.
For sure.
All right, good stuff. But yeah, we'll try to have him on as much as his schedule allows. He's very busy right now, but we're excited for him for this new opportunity. All right. Well, I think that's it for episode 45 of the AngelsWin Podcast. We've got a little over a month and a half left in our 20th anniversary AngelsWin tour. Next year, I was thinking, it's the 21st year. The website will be old enough to drink, so we need to come up with some good stuff some good swag for that.
Which means we've been drinking underage for 20 years.
Right. Well, you're Italian. You know that they start drinking young and new. All right. Well, for Chuck Richter, my name's Jeff Stoddart. This is the AngelsWin Podcast. Thank you for listening, and go Halos.
Thanks for listening to the AngelsWin.com podcast with Chuck Richter and Jeff Stoddart. Until next time, go Halos.